So welcome again, and thank you so much for joining us today for the Summer Research Collaborative meeting hosted by our team here at the Michigan Virtual Learning Research Institute, or MVLRI. Please, throughout the meeting, if you have your microphones, please use them. If you don't have a microphone or if it's not working, please feel free to share any opportunities in the chat box, and we'll share it out over the mic. A quick disclaimer, this webinar will be recorded and shared publicly. Anything shared during this webinar, including chat comments, could be shared publicly. This meeting may include attendees' personal views, opinions, conclusions, and other information which do not necessarily reflect those of MVU and/or MVLRI and are not given nor endorsed by MVU or MVLRI unless otherwise specified. Very funny, Michael. So here's the agenda for today. We'll start off with introductions and then move on to the sharing part of the meeting. Again, this collaborative is an open community for everyone to come together and share opportunities for collaboration, as well as ask any questions about current research that they're working on. And after that, we'll take some time to wrap up and preview some upcoming events. So Michael, would you like to share out an introduction?
Sure, I'm not sure if my microphone is working.
It sounds good to me.
Okay, well, I'm Mike Barber. I am the Director of Doctoral Studies at Sacred Heart University and in Fairfield, Connecticut, and I'm interested in just about everything to do with K-12 online and blended learning, although I tend to get pegged mostly as the international guy, but I guess that's it.
Perfect. Thanks so much for sharing. And like I said, hopefully we have some more participants coming in as the meeting goes on, but we wanted to go ahead and get started in the business part of the meeting. And right now we're looking at the collaboration opportunities that have to do with grants. As far as we know, the NSF has one available right now called iTest, or the Innovative Technology Experiences for Students and Teachers, and their applications are due November 13th. I'm going to go ahead and share a link to their website. Michael or anybody else, do you have anything to share in terms of grants that are available? Oh, great. Michael says that the NSF Cyber Learning grant is open as well. If you could, Michael, could you find a link for that and share that in the chat box? We'll be publishing the chat so that it goes along with all of the information that's available in the chat box. All right, so any other collaboration opportunities in terms of research? All right, moving right along here. Michael, do you have anything in terms of research? Collaboration opportunities? Great.
Not specifically. I'm going to be doing in the coming year. One is a project to replicate Lisa Dolly's and Carrie Rice's Going Virtual project on PD and virtual schooling, although I'm going to be replicating that in a Canadian context. And similarly, we are going to also be replicating the teacher education work that you and Leanna did a couple of years ago, also looking specifically at Canadian institutions.
Awesome, that's great news. And it looks like the rolling deadlines, depending on the directorate, this is for the cyber learning. Michael, did you want to share anything you know about the NSF cyber learning grant?
Sure. Again, the deadlines are varying depending upon which specific director you're sending it to. The acceptance rates the last time that they did the cyber learning program, which would have been, I guess, probably 2 or 3 years ago, would have been the last version that was up, and then they started again in 2014, tended to be about an 8% to a 14% acceptance rate, depending upon which directorate that you went to. They define cyber learning in a very broad fashion. Basically, it's anything that is technology assisted learning. So it's not necessarily, cyber schooling or online learning particular. So that's one thing to keep in mind as you're going through working on any proposals.
Great, thanks so much for sharing that information. I'm going to back up one slide just in case our newcomers, I see Sarah and Michelle and Benita have joined us. Feel free to test out your microphones and say hello and introduce yourselves if you'd like. And if you don't have a microphone or if it's not working currently, you can always just chat in the chat box. That would be great too. We're just talking about sharing any kind of grant opportunities that you know of. Michael Barber just talked about the NSF Cyber Learning Grant, and we also talked about the iTest Stellar Grant. And the link is, for that one, is right here. And those are due November 13th, and the iTest one is mainly STEM related. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to the research collaboration opportunities. Anybody? Oh, Michael, go ahead.
On the iTest one, just to give folks a little bit of context, iTest is actually funded or supported through H-1B visas. So the fee that folks get for an H-1B visa, a portion of that actually goes to fund the NSF's iTest project. And so that's why they have that very specific focus on the STEM disciplines, because one of the areas that they, actually not one of, the area where they actually grant the vast majority of H-1B visas are in the STEM disciplines. So the idea is that hopefully the iTest project will become so successful in attracting folks to the STEM disciplines that they won't need to issue as many visas, which means they won't have as much money to fund the iTest program in general. So that's sort of the background on that.
Perfect. Thanks so much for sharing. And I see that we have a couple other people that joined us, Scott and Dennis. If you guys want to either grab the microphone and introduce yourself, or you can chat and introduce yourself in the chat box instead if you don't have a microphone.
Hi everybody, Scott Petrie checking in from Los Angeles, California.
Thanks so much for joining us, Scott. Can you tell us, everybody, a little bit about the research that you do?
Sure, I have been teaching some MOOCs as professional development for history teachers, and I think there's tremendous potential to reach sort of an underserved market with the MOOC format, and I'm in the midst of writing and editing an article on that right now, which is more of a case study approach.
Perfect. Thanks so much. And Dennis, feel free to jump in as well. I see that your microphone is unmuted, but I'm not hearing you if you are talking. Okay, you're having technical difficulties. No worries. So go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat box. There we go. And so Michael just followed up a little bit about the grant opportunity for the NSF Cyber Learning. It's STEM focused, or I'm sorry, the Stellar one. It's STEM focused, but they like to fund projects that get students in STEM disciplines and especially the historically underserved populations. So great. And he said, Michael also said, just chatting with Randy Labonte on Skype, who wanted to apologize for missing the meeting. He is actually in the process of getting the new Can He Learn website online today. That's great news. Great news. All right, so we'll go ahead and move on to publication opportunities. And I'll go ahead and give everyone the floor to talk a little bit about any publication opportunities that you know of that are coming up. All right, feel free to add in anything in the chat box that you'd like to share out about publication opportunities. We have a couple that we'd like to talk about, including the Journal of Online Learning Research and also the MVLRI blog, which Becky on our team is going to talk a little bit about in just a minute. So the Journal of Online Learning Research, we currently have 11 manuscripts that are either under review or waiting on revision and resubmission. We just published our second issue, which we're really excited about. So it's on the website that you can see there, linked there. We also have 3 special issues that are in the works. One on teacher professional development that's going to be guest edited by Wendy Oliver and Rebecca Parks, and one on learner support systems that's going to be headed up by Jared Borup, and one on international spotlighting that's going to be headed up by one of our associate editors, Peter Albion. So hopefully those calls will be coming out pretty soon. I know the teacher professional development one is about to be shared out pretty soon. And Becky, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you to talk a little bit about how people can get involved in guest blogging.
Okay, thanks, Catherine. For those of you who have not seen one of our blogs, we do have a link to the guest blogger program off our MVLRI homepage, which is mvlri.org. And someone's going to put that in the chat box, I'm sure, although I think it's later on in the slide presentation as well. So we have published a number of blogs previously that you can see there on the MVLRI homepage, but then we're always looking for additional blogs for the website. There's a request for proposal stipulations on the web page. We ask that the research be cited and the original research be available to folks through a link. And we actually offer $100 compensation for guest blogs. We're looking for posts that are approximately 1,000 to 2,000 words, which should include references but wouldn't necessarily include the tables or diagrams, that kind of thing that are included in the blog. We do have an application procedure, which is that you send your CV and a short description of your topic, that is approximately 250 words, to us at mvlri@mviu.org. And then we'll get back to you right away within the next couple of weeks about your proposal, and then we negotiate a time that would be good for your blog to be published. I think that's about it. As I say, we encourage you to go to the website and see what it is that people have been contributing thus far. We have a couple in the wings, but we're always looking for more. Back to you, Catherine, unless there's some questions.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Becky. If you do have questions for Becky, could you add in your email address, Becky, into the chat box when you get a chance, and they can direct those questions to you. And I see that there's a few other publication opportunities that I'm going to read off in the chat box, and if anybody would like to chime in that shared them to tell a little bit more about them, please feel free to do so. Dennis Beck said that the School Media and Tech Division of AECT is putting together a book chapter that is has a late spring due date. So if you want to get involved in that, please share that or share your contact information with Dennis. If you can talk a little bit more about that, Dennis, in the chat box, that would be great. Like any of the information that people need to have in order to submit to that, that would be great. And then it looks like, oh great, Michael Barber mentioned that the online learning special issue from the OLC, or what was formerly Sloan C, special issue should be out near the end of 2014 or early 2015, depending on copy editing. That is great news. And Scott is sharing his research interests on K-12 educators and taking MOOCs for professional development. And all right. So we are caught up, I think, with the chat box, and we're going to move right on to collaboration opportunities in terms of presentations. I'll let everybody go ahead and add your stuff to the chat box, and I'll jump in and talk about the ones that are up there now that I know of, and then I'll come back around and have you guys share out either via your microphones or through the chat box. Oh, did someone just try to chat?
Did this work? Can you hear me now? This is Dennis.
Perfect, Dennis, I can hear you, yes.
Oh, great.
That's great. Dennis, if you want to go ahead and talk about your... Perfect. Can you go ahead and talk about that book chapter you were talking about?
Yes, we're still narrowing the foci, and that the RFP will probably come out in probably late December, early January. And then manuscripts will be due in late spring. But it will be online learning at the K-12 level focus, and we're just trying to figure out the specific foci within that rather broad reach. So that's the kind of the details we have right now. Very few. It's just been planned. It just came onto our division's radar. So, and it'll be published by AECT.
Great information. Yeah, if you can send that over to us, and feel free to put together a blog post to share out as well, and we can share it out with the community once you have that all together.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
So moving on to, great, thanks. For the presentations part of collaboration opportunities, site currently has a call for panels. The K-12 online learning special interest group is looking for 3 to 4 panels around topics related to K-12 online learning and blended learning for that matter. If you are interested in proposing a topic and organizing a panel, feel free to email me. Again, we're looking for 3 to 4 different panels. So far, we've gotten 2 or 3 people who are interested in submitting some and or being part of them. So feel free to let me know if you're interested in that. And then I'm going to hand it over to Justin to talk a little bit about our webinar series.
Thanks, Catherine. So for those of you who have attended one or more of our webinars in the past, you might recognize my voice. I am in charge of kind of running the overall webinar initiative. In the past, we have been pretty flexible about when our webinars take place. Oh, thanks, Dennis. So in the past, we've been pretty flexible about when our webinars take place, but we are going to be trying something new entering the fall and try to have a consistent day and time as to when we hold our webinars in order to hopefully get a more consistent audience. So we'll be having our webinars take place on the first and third Wednesdays of every month at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So hopefully that is a good, agreeable time for most of our audience. I know we've got people spread out across the country, but we're trying to come to something that accommodates most people. In the webinar series, we're looking for some pretty formal webinars on finished research or possibly some informal webinars on some works in progress, but with at least some findings to share. And that can be on anything in the area of K-12, online and blended learning. If you have something that would fill about 45 minutes of presentation and about 15 minutes of question and answer, that's what we're looking for. You can actually, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about the format and how these sorts of things go, you can check out our YouTube page, which I'll share in the chat box to get an idea about how our webinars typically progress. They do take place in Adobe Connect, which is the format we're using right now. We are going to be working with Randy and some of his team a little bit on maybe tweaking some of the formatting for a special series of webinars, so that may open up the door to change the formatting on our overall webinar initiatives, but for the most part, pretty simple presentation software used like Adobe Connect here. Like I said, they are recorded and shared with the research community on our, Randy Labonte at CannyLearn. Sorry, Michael. They are recorded and shared on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/MVLRI1. We also have a podcast series, which is currently called Virtual Viewpoints. And though the bullet there says 5 to 10 minutes, they actually tend to lean more toward the 15 or 20-minute mark because we have such great conversations with all of our guests. But you can check out our podcasts, which we host on our SoundCloud channel, and you can also download those from iTunes, and I will post a link to that where we actually host them on our own website as well. You can, if you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, you can come and talk about if you are a researcher, what sort of research you're doing. If you are in the area of practice, curriculum, something like that, and you use a lot of research to inform your work, which I would say makes up most of our guests on the podcast, you're more than welcome to come onto the podcast and share about how that work is being received in the field and what's going on with your work. If you have any other ideas, specific initiatives or programs that you'd like to promote on the podcast, we're more than welcome to host you as a guest on the podcast as well. So I will put out my email address in the chat window along with the other two things that I had promised to post. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me and let me know. Thank you.
Awesome, Justin. And I think that we have two, running back up to the webinar series, we have 2 openings in September. We're currently planning 2 in October already, but we have 2 openings, I think, in September. Justin, could you confirm that? I'm pretty sure. Cool. So yeah, if you would like to present some recent work on the first or third Wednesday in September at 2 p.m. Eastern, get in touch with Justin and he can hook you up with that. All right, so we will come back up here just in case anybody else. Does anybody else have any other collaborative opportunities that you would like to share out about presentations?
Not necessarily one that is collaborative in nature, but namely because the call for proposals is already passed, but just to mention that the Online Learning Consortium's annual online learning conference, and that's their main one that's focused upon online learning as opposed to the one in February, which is mainly focused upon blended learning, is happening in mid-October, and we do have a K-12 focus stream for the first time, and That includes both an invited presentation that will be webcast out to, I guess, well, to whoever wants to watch it, a workshop, which is actually being organized by the MVLRI folks, and several presentations. I think we've got one presentation in every slot throughout the conference, and I know several of them are actually going to be focused on MVLRI projects that have taken place over the past year and a half or so. So if you are looking for a conference to attend or looking for an excuse to go to Florida in mid-October, I'd highly recommend that particular conference.
Perfect, Michael. Thanks so much. I think I actually have it on one of the future slides up here. Let's see. Yes. Okay. So in our collaborative opportunities for upcoming conferences, that is the first one that's listed. That online learning conference, October 14th to the 16th in Orlando, Florida, and MVLRI is happy to be doing the research pre-conference meeting that's going to take place on October 15th from 8:30 to 11:30. So we hope to see you there. And also in Orlando, Florida too, only a couple weeks later, there's the INACOL Symposium for Online and Blended Learning, and that's November 8th through the 11th. Also in Orlando, we're also organizing the pre-conference for research there, and that meeting will be held on November 8th from 1 to 4 p.m. So we hope that if you haven't made your travel plans yet, if you can come in so that you'll be able to join us at that 1 to 4 meeting, that would be awesome. We are currently making final changes to the agenda, and we'll send that out ahead of time so that you know what to expect for those 2 meetings. So we hope to see you there for those. We also have the SITE conference coming up, Society for Information Technology and Teacher Education, March 21st to the 25th in Savannah, Georgia. And the call for proposals is due on October 21st. And again, those special calls for the panels, if you can get in touch with me if you're interested in doing that for the special SIG on K-12 online and blended learning, that would be really great. There's also the AERA conference, April 8th through the 12th. Michael, are there any other conferences that you know about? Any other conferences that anybody knows of? I know AECT. Dennis, if you want to share a little bit about AECT as well.
Yes, AECT is November, I believe it's November 3rd through 7th. It's a Wednesday through a Saturday. So it's just prior to INACOL conference, which I think is what I believe it's Sunday through the 8th to the 11th, if I'm correct. But I don't want to speak for that conference. We have several presentations on online learning. I've not actually put them all together yet, but I'll be sending that or creating a blog post for that as well, and sending it out to your blog for posting. And we're attempting at this point to have all those sessions recorded. So just cross your fingers on that, because I'm not quite sure of the hotel's bandwidth and ability to live stream things. So thanks.
All right, perfect. Yeah, if anybody else has any other conferences that they'd like to share out, remember that our blog, we'd be happy to share those out through our blog. So if you'd want to create a blog post and share that with us, we'd be happy to do so. Michael, go ahead.
A couple on the international front. I know CanElearn will be having their annual general meeting in probably mid-September. I'm going to guess the 14th through the 16th kind of time frame. Our annual general meeting is always an online one. We wait until the summer when it's usually a little bit warmer in Canada to have any of our face-to-face get-togethers. As well, 2016 is another Dean's year, the Distance Ed Association of New Zealand, which now has a new fancy name, and Dean's is just a non-acronymed word. So it used to be the Distance Ed Association of New Zealand. But they will have theirs, I believe it's the first week of April. And if I remember correctly, they are in Christchurch this year.
If you could go ahead and add in links to those conferences that you mentioned, that would be awesome. Just add those into the chat box. And moving on to the collaborative opportunities, any other opportunities that may have not fallen into the different topics that we've talked about before. Anybody have any opportunities that they know of in terms of fellowships maybe, or job opportunities that they'd like to share out? Yes, so Michael's asking about the site conference and the SIG for the K-12 online learning SIG, and what the panel breakdown and whether or not there's going to be enough sort of standalone presentations as well. That's a good question, and like I said, we'll probably figure that out within the next few weeks, I think. And thank you, Michael, for posting the Dean's Conference. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on to MVLRI's opportunity. We do have a job that we have posted. It's we're looking for a researcher. Specifically, we're looking for someone who does a lot of high-level quantitative methods. So if you or anyone you know is interested in joining our team, we would love to hear from you. And I am going to post, if someone could run and get the the URL for that posting, the job posting, that would be great, and post it in the chat box. All right. Does anybody have any research that they're currently working on where they need to ask questions of the group and talk a little bit about their research if they want feedback? Thanks for posting that link, Justin. And Dennis, will it be before the panel proposal deadline? Yes, it should be before then. Dennis, I know that you had emailed me about any research in online learning in art history. Does anybody know of any researchers that are working in that area?
Yeah, if you don't mind, let me just talk a little bit about the project I'm involved in. The local art museum in Northwest Arkansas is called Crystal Bridges Museum um, of American Art, and they created an online course, and I evaluated it. They asked me to evaluate it, and gave them some good feedback, and they made some changes, and it includes kind of a Blackboard environment for 9th through 12th graders where they're learning art history and digital curation skills. And part of it is they complete a fully immersive module that was created using Unity 3D, where they actually are in a room that looks like one of the Crystal Bridges art display rooms, and they get to digitally curate with actual digital versions of the art, and are critiqued by museum curators. But anyways, that's the background for it. I'm writing up kind of the results of the pilot data that I collected in the spring, and I'm not finding a lot out there on the teaching of art or art history or even curation skills in an online environment. So anybody who has information, I'll just go ahead and post my my email address there in the chat. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks so much for setting the context, Dennis. And hopefully, I know that people have been contacted by others who have actually watched the recording. So there might be some folks that watch the recording and provide you feedback as well. Does anybody have any feedback for Dennis? It doesn't sound like it, Dennis. I'm sorry to, I kind of figured that was going to be the case, but I'm just wanted to make sure. That means it's a whole new world to discover. So we are in the midst of getting our customer value and satisfaction survey and would like you to participate if you haven't done so already. I'm going to go ahead and post the link to the survey. It takes about 5 minutes, and just trying to gauge if we're doing a good job, if we need to do better in areas, and we really greatly appreciate your feedback if you haven't already submitted your survey yet. So that really concludes the business part of the meeting. Is there anything else anybody would like to share out that they haven't done so already?
One question. Oh, sorry. Did I interrupt somebody?
Oh, that was just me. I thought no one was going to say something. So go ahead, Dennis.
If there are some large data sets, I'm starting to potentially get into looking at some large data sets and analysis using large data sets. And I don't have expertise in that. Is there anybody here that I might be able to get advice from, get help?
I know Kristen and Joe on our team for sure have been working a lot with large data sets, so I'm sure that they would offer some help and looks like help as well.
Excellent. Good to know. Good to know. Thank you. I'll contact all of you individually.
Great. If everybody could their email addresses and there that's willing to help, that would be great. All right, I'm going to hand it back over to Justin to talk about our future research webinars.
Thanks, Catherine. Yeah, so yeah, our next scheduled webinar, as Catherine mentioned, we do have a couple openings for the upcoming month of September, but we have one on the calendar for October, which would be October 21st at 2 p.m. Eastern, which would be that Wednesday, the third Wednesday of the month. And we'll be hearing from Eric Keller, Lori Worth, Heidi Curtis, Eric Worth, and Paula from Northwest Nazarene University, along with Sharon Ribery and Nikki Walker from IDLA. And they'll be talking a little bit about the student perspective, and we'll be hearing from the student voices in a blended learning research project that they undertook. So we look forward to hopefully seeing you then.
Great. Thanks so much again. If you're interested in keeping up with us, please email us at mvlri@mivu.org or join us on Facebook, Twitter, and or LinkedIn. We hope you enjoy your day, and it looks like Michael has been posting some other information for Dennis's project. Thanks.